Here's the diehard starting grid. On the pole, it's Michael Andretti, the winner of the last 2 races here at Mid-Ohio, alongside Paul Tracy, his second front row start in his last 3 races. In row 2, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, the winner here in 1988, and Mario Andretti, who won this event back in 1984. Row number 3, it's Eddie Cheever, who ran 4th here 2 years ago, and Al Unser Jr., looking for his first win at Mid-Ohio. In the 4th row, it's Scott Goodyear, the winner of the Michigan 500, and John Andretti with 9 top 10 finishes this season. In row number 5, Bobby Rahal, a 2-time winner of this event, and Scott Pruitt, who scored 4th place here last year. In the 6th row, it's Danny Sullivan with 7 top 5 finishes in 8 races here, and Raul Boesel. In row number 7, it's Scott Brayton, and Rookie of the Year contender Stefan Johansson. Row number 8, Mike Groff in A.J. Foyt's car, and Brian Till. The 9th row, Christian Danner and Ted Krappus. In row number 10, it's Hiro Mashusta and Jimmy Vasser. The 11th row, Buddy Lazier and the 1991 Indy Lights champion Eric Bachelard. In the 12th row, it's John Jones and Jeff Wood. Row number 13, Brian Bonner and Dennis Vitolo. Ready to come out, Michael Andretti surges ahead. Nick Finoro gives them the green flag, and we are underway here in the Pioneer Electronics 200 at Mid-Ohio as Michael Andretti receives a challenge from Paul Tracy, but Tracy plays it very carefully.
And Tracy almost got caught out, but look at Fittipaldi now. He's the one. Oh, Andretti's on the grass.
John Andretti, the bright yellow car, gets off onto the edge of the grass, and that forces Goodyear to the side for a second. And finally, he gets back going. Now, remember that Paul Tracy drives 2 cars in the season. That second car is one of them. It is the mobile-colored machine and not the number 4 that he has been driving for Rick Mears.
And Paul Tracy shadowing Michael Andretti, another championship contender here, Al Jr., but John Andretti looking to make a statement here in the opening laps.
So Michael Andretti out in front with Paul Tracy now in pursuit of him as they come across the line on the pit straight and through turn 1 for the very first time in this run here this afternoon. Tracy has been very careful with that car throughout the entire weekend, and now some people are beginning to expect some good results from him.
In contact,
and Rahal's in trouble. Rahal is in trouble. This is exactly what you said could kill a championship for this man, and there is some damage there.
Losing the momentum in a championship fight, and the right front suspension is broken. You can see it on the car. Rahal is out, done for the day. It's all over. No points again today.
What terrible luck. There it is. No traffic in front of him. He's just completed lap number 10. Thus far in the event, Michael was the fastest driver at 112 miles an hour. Turned on lap number 9, but then Paul Tracy, as they completed lap 10, responded, upping the ante just a bit. So both Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti are running very fast indeed.
Let's go on board here with Michael and just see how difficult a job it is. He's up past the pit straight here. This is the difficult turn 1. This is the keyhole. What's the concrete patch? Right there. It's very slippery. Look, he slides right off it almost. Long back straight, 175 miles an hour even in race trim, and then slams on the brakes. You can still hear the bottom of the car rub the ground. Watch his uphill run. And over the top, look at this, over the top, downhill run. Now this is one of the most difficult parts, over the top of this hill when he turns right. See the elevation changes.
Fastest lap of the race. Now let's watch Paul Tracy for just a bit. Watch his style as he attacks what many feel, Derek, is a very difficult course.
It is a very difficult course. Reason being there are double apex corners here, and there are blind apexes over these elevation changes. But Paul Tracy has many, many racing miles and testing miles around here, because remember, he did extensive testing for True Sports in an Indycar before he got his contract with Penske. You can see here Tracy stayed on the concrete patch. That's the one we saw Michael slide to the outside. Now, sometimes there is actually more grip around the outside of those concrete patches.
And 20 laps of the last 600 run on natural terrain road courses. An awesome figure.
Awesome figure and awesome pictures again from inside Al Jr. I know we mentioned earlier, it is so difficult to make up time on a car ahead of you when sometimes he's only 2 car lengths. But if he doesn't make a mistake, things are so competitive now between these cars, it's very, very difficult to catch another car. But look, under braking, traffic plays a position here.
Traffic very definitely apart as Mario strays to the outside, and they all try to move around the slower car and finally accomplish that pass. Of course, that was Brian Bonner, only driving in his 3rd IndyCar race of his career, and very wisely moved aside, but it gave Eddie Cheever and Al Unser Jr. both an opportunity.
Oh, big opportunity. We saw Mario, all sorts of things went wrong, and I think Cheever got passed by Al Jr.
Al Unser Jr. now we see it. Cheever was over to the left when we saw the onboard camera, and little Al forced his nose inside to the right of Cheever and moved into the position. So now little Al runs in 5th place.
And what I think happened is you could see that Cheever was trying to make a pass on Mario. Look at Cheever. He moves to the outside. Now he's going to go inside Mario. Realizes he's stuck, and Al Jr., look at this, round the outside. Very
Michael and Mario in together, and you try to keep them separated by a lap. Look at Paul Tracy. He stays right in contact. And Michael through all kinds of traffic.
Exactly, locking up that right front brake as he gets hard down on the brakes to close up behind Michael. This is going to be a tremendous battle, but look at Emerson. Again, he gets a bad run in traffic.
Emerson, though, back in contact now and begins to close in on his teammate Paul Tracy. So the 2 Penske cars in pursuit of Newman Haas's Michael Andretti, and there goes Emerson Fittipaldi into the pits. And here comes Michael Andretti into the pits as well, over a camera that's buried down in the ground. Jan Beekes.
Michael Andretti brought it in. He was definitely on the gas coming in here, Paul. He locked up the brakes before he brought it to a stop, but he got it right on the marks. They laid out actually a lap earlier. That has to mean they're very, very marginal on fuel. Whoa, got the air jack stuck there. He's underway.
Time now.
Oh, he's stuck behind Brighton. That's going to lose a couple of seconds.
Gary Gerald's right there in the Penske pits.
Indeed, Paul. Emerson was in and out in 12.3 seconds. Interesting, Emerson's teammates now cheering on those that are crewing the car for Tracy as they make the change of tires. They take on the critical load of fuel, and we're watching the clock. They're now past 13 seconds. They've got to climb up the hill. Wheel spin, and he killed the engine coming off the jack. Critical, tough break for Paul Tracy. They scramble to get the starter back over the wall. The clock's still running at 25 seconds plus. Now they need auxiliary power. This is disastrous for Tracy.
Michael Andretti sweeps back into the lead as Paul Tracy in 28.7 seconds.
And here's the leading group right behind them. They're also going to have to contend with that traffic jam.
So now traffic lies ahead of everyone that matters. And look at this. Michael slows it down, and Fittipaldi takes the lead. Something's wrong with Michael. Another important change in the points fight. Michael Andretti pulls it off of the race course. What could it be? Has to be engine.
Has to be mechanical. A disaster again for Michael. Exiting, we watched Sandy in total disgust. Exiting turn 1. That's where Rahal went off earlier. Nothing he can do. He's already thrown the steering wheel out. There's the long cord for the radio. Michael's day is over.
Well, that wave that started this weekend has now crested and lapped up on the beach and left Michael Andretti high and dry.
Now the championship fight opens up even further. Great shot here of Al Jr. You can see that tear off on his visor. Now when that gets oily and dusty and dirty from cars ahead of him, he literally tears it off, and he has another clear windscreen to see what's going on ahead of him. But the interesting thing is, look at his arm movement. See how they bob up and down? The other one bobs up and down as the car goes over these bumps, and he tries to keep the car steady. To the outside, it looks very smooth, but you can clearly see inside. These drivers work very hard. Now remember that pulling.
And they could lose it for him. Here's Gary Gerald.
We watch with the crew. He sneaks around the corner perfectly on the mark. The veteran driver who is looking for his 4th win this year. The crew has told us there'll be no changes on the setup. They make the precautionary move to clean the air intake around the radiator, make sure there's cool air flowing in there. He's rolling. We've got him in right around 15 seconds. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Al Unser Jr. came in just ahead of you, Gary. They know that this car is handling great, but they lost time early in the event. Everything is coming down to how fast they can make this stop. Those tires are on quick, but they can't do it. Now the fuel's in. He's out of here. Very, very quick stop.
They changed the tires faster than they could get all of the fuel flowing into the engine. So now, Al, let's go back to Gary.
Well, they had disaster the first time they were in here when they had to kill the engine and they didn't get the clean getaway. This time they're looking for what they hope will be a routine stop. This young Canadian driver who's been so impressive, trying to be patient as he waits, getting that full complement of fuel. Again, it seems like such a long wait. Now he's rolling and away, 15.3 seconds.
Speculation, Derek Warwick, you mentioned earlier, will test this car here Tuesday and Wednesday. Where John Andretti will go, nobody knows. But however, having one of his better days this afternoon of this season.
John Andretti, too, something that he is looking at is perhaps a berth in the Marlboro Challenge, as he almost loses the car there. So with Eddie Cheever no longer a solid contestant in that, if he can stay up in the points, then he can find himself with the last position in that all-star race. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Oh, talking about John Andretti, he has something different than any of the other competitors. Here's a standard Lola brake caliper. It says 6-pot. Look inside, you see 6 pistons there. This is what they're running. They're running what's called a Willwood. This is made here in the United States. It's named after William Wood. And they think this really gives them an advantage in braking. See how it's so shiny and everything in there? That's actually to reflect the heat so that he doesn't lose brakes towards the end of the race. And they really feel, John says, he thinks it really helps towards the end. Of course, now is when it would pay off.
John Andretti staying in contact with the leaders, running in 4th place. He is 33 seconds behind the car in front of him, which is Al Unser Jr., and well behind the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi.
Difficult situation for a driver to be at a race.
Has several cars in front of him, notably Stefan Johansson and Scott Pruitt. They are battling position, while at the same time Tracy is trying to hold off a charging Al Unser Jr.
Al Jr. is right behind Tracy. This is the run that he needs to try an out-braking maneuver at the end of this race.
But it's also a place where one must be careful, because that is a fight for position that is just in front of them. They're not necessarily going to give way. Paul Tracy gets around Johansson. That cuts him off from Al Unser Jr. and gives him a little breathing room for the moment. But look at little Al as he moves to the outside and finds some racing room, but still has to stay behind Johansson.
That's the key for the leader of the race. Put the traffic between yourself and the pursuer. Al Jr. knew that, tried to do what he did to Cheever earlier, go around the outside. Oh, Johansson gets it sideways, tries to go around the outside of Johansson at the top of the hill, and he didn't pull it off.
And what about in that computer-like mind of Al Unser Jr.? Is he registering that 16 car and saying, oh no, this is the same guy that got in trouble with Bobby Rahal 2 weeks ago at Vancouver. I've got to be careful of this fella.
He might well do that, because he knows Johansson is racing Pruitt. Now he's lost a little bit of time because he had to move over, and that
a little bit after that one, got off the bike once or twice. The white flag comes out to Emerson Fittipaldi, whose lead has been nibbled away, probably more because he's relaxing just a bit. He came across the line 11 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy in 2nd place. Al Unser Jr. is trying to close on Tracy, but it seems like it is to no avail at this point. Fittipaldi going for his 2nd win this season on a natural terrain course, the first coming at Road America.
If Al Unser Jr. stays in the position he's in, and if he takes the championship lead, remember, they have the development of
Scott Pruitt. Looks like a motor let go on Scott. As he's by the edge of the course, they'll bring out a local yellow. It won't affect the run of the race.
But I wanted to say, Gallas are bringing out the development of the chassis. Oh, Emerson slows way down, can't see through the smoke. I'll finally get it said. Al Jr. has a new car coming to Nazareth, which might make him even faster.
Taking it so very careful. He saw that smoke, couldn't see clearly around the corner, and decided just to tiptoe through. Now, with a burst of power, Emerson Fittipaldi takes his 17th career win, his 72nd win for the Roger Penske team. And behind him, it will be Paul Tracy coming to the line in 2nd place. Al Unser Jr. screaming for 3rd place right now. But a Penske finish, 1-2, and Mid-Ohio. Little Al trailed the points leader Rahal by 32 points in July, and now he leads by a single point over Bobby Rahal.